I wanted to make a clamp for this horn, but because this is tapered and there's a joint right here, you can't get a good grip on that. And I certainly didn't want to tighten up on it tight enough that I might deform that rather thin piece of metal that it's made out of. Made this 2-part clamp that will bolt together, and I've wrapped electrical tape around the horn. I mixed up my epoxy, put it in the trough on this side, pushed the horn down in there and held that in place until that epoxy set up. It's 6-minute epoxy, so it doesn't take too long. I'll let that sit overnight. I'll come back tomorrow and I'll pull the tape loose, trim away a little bit of that epoxy and pop this horn out of there, and there should be a pretty good impression of that in this half of the block. Then I'll do the other half. I used electrical tape to protect the wood and to seal the bottom of that gap. I took some 30-minute epoxy, mixed it in this little film can, put it in the microwave, warmed it up, which made it real thin so I could pour it into this gap. Once you heat that up, it's no longer going to be 30-minute epoxy because you've pumped heat into that. It's going to start to set real quick. So you want to make sure that you're ready to go before you mix it and heat it. After I put the epoxy in these 2 halves, it has the shape and that offset in the epoxy. These machine screws, I just tapped right into this oak. That's strong enough for this. And that's got a little bit of give to it. And that's because I had tape wrapped around this to keep the epoxy from sticking to the horn itself. So I'm just going to put a little tape on here. When I bolt this together, this will be very rigid. Little tape stretched tight. Clamp's been assembled, very solid. That tape around the horn makes all the difference. When that's mounted on the stick, it'll stay in one position.